What's happening guys, Scott Bancroft here and welcome to the very first video of the channel. It's excellent to meet you, and today to kick it all off we've got 5 easy tips to improve your iPhone photography. So without further ado, let's dive on in. Starting us off strong, tip number 1, we are selecting what time we take photos. I like to shoot around sunrise and sunset, as these times provide the most diffused light with your golden and blue tones in the sky. Photographers like to call this time period golden hour and blue hour. Using this simple tip, you're going to turn your photo from a photo into a great photo. For example, you can see the difference of a photo I took during the day to one that I took during the blue hour. It's as simple as waiting a couple of hours for the lighting event to start. For tip number 2, let's dive on into the phone's camera and see how we can control your exposure. Once you're loaded into your phone's camera, you can tap the area of interest, and this will tell the phone, focus here and expose correctly. You can further adjust the exposure by sliding your finger up to brighten or sliding your finger down to darken the photo. If your photo has large areas of bright and dark pixels, consider shooting in HDR. HDR is high dynamic range. It's where the phone or camera takes multiple exposures and blends it into one that it thinks is the most correct. I like to use HDR in my landscapes, especially when shooting during the golden hour, as it will provide even toning throughout the photo. Moving on to tip number 3, clean your lens. Nothing worse than having that great photo to only find out later that your fingerprint's in the way. Really shouldn't even be a tip. Maybe you just picked up your phone and had a look at your lens. But you're cleaning it right now, the corner of your shirt. So that's what I would do. Clean your lens. Moving on to tip number 4, we're going to go into the juicy details of the iPhone editor. Editing your photo is just like baking a cake, now putting the icing on it. You've done the hard work, now you're about to make it look great. Loading up into an image of Brisbane City, I'll show you the few basic functions that I use on an everyday basis. Exposure adjusts the overall brightness and darkness of the photo. The highlights adjust the brightest pixels, whereas the shadows adjust the darkest pixels. The contrast adjusts the contrast between the highlights and the shadows. The less contrast you have, the flatter your image will look. The more contrast you add, the more dramatic your image will look. Saturation adjusts the overall color of the photo, whereas vibrance will only adjust the muted colors. The warmer slider is quite handy, especially when shooting during golden hour and blue hour, as you can adjust the temperature of the photo. You can make the photo look warmer by adding yellow tones and cooler by adding blue tones. Sharpness and definition add clarity to your photo, making the edges more refined. And the last function is vignette. Vignette adds a white or black soft border around your photo. I like to use vignette to add emphasis to the subject. Not typically so much in landscapes, but if I'm doing product photography or taking photos of people, adding vignette draws the eye to the subject. Our 5th tip, quite an easy one, being a little creative. There's no right or wrong way to take the photo, so whatever you do is unique to you. Next time you go out and take a photo, think to yourself, how can I do this differently? There is no one set way to take a landscape, nor is there one set way to take a portrait. Be creative, take those photos, tag me on Instagram @ScottBancroft_ so I can see and share your photos. And there you have it, 5 simple tips to improve your iPhone photography. Select the time you shoot, control that exposure, clean that lens of yours, use the editor to put the icing on the cake, and be creative. That's it guys. Hit that like button if you found this video interesting, subscribe if you want to see more videos, ring the bell if you want to be notified, and I'll see you guys in the next video.